Afternoon. Welcome to our DEIB webinar. I am delighted to be hosting this session on a topic that is truly very dear to my heart. We have invited an esteemed panel of leaders to share their thoughts, experiences, and initiatives. I will ask Karen, our facilitator, to kick off the introductions. Please enjoy the session.
Thank you, Ruby. We are all so proud to be here today to participate into this event. As for me, my name is Karen Emery. I'm the Vice President of Sub24. We are the largest HR marketing agency in Canada with deep expertise in DEIB. This is why it's so important for me to be here to be part of this beautiful discussion today. Like most of you, we want to change the world of work to make it better, to help employers build healthy diversity workforce. So I hope that today will make a difference for you. So let's talk about our amazing panelists that we have for you today. We'll go over a short introduction. So each of you guys will present yourselves. Greg, you go first.
So hi, Corinne, Ruby, thank you for having me. My name is Greg Petrowski, and what I do is I am responsible for our mid-market business and the partner ecosystem that supports it in North America for SAP. I am also the chair of our Mid-Market Diversity Council. It's something that we're very proud of. We'll talk a little bit more about that today.
Thank you, Greg. Margo, your turn.
Hello, everyone. I'm Margo Goodson. I am Vice President, Head of North America Diversity Inclusion. I set strategy for US and Canada on how we embrace diversity across our workforce, our workplace, and our marketplace leadership. So thank you for having me here today.
Wow, that's amazing, Margo. Thank you. Heidi.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Heidi Scott, and I'm the Chief Learning Officer at HR.com, and I have the privilege of working with a very skilled team of instructional designers, and we create courses to help HR professionals do their jobs better. And I'm most excited about a number of courses we have in the DEI space, which is exciting. So that's who I am. Happy to be.
Great, thank you, Heidi. And finally, Ruby, if you want to just close the introductions, we'll all hear.
Sure, thank you. So Ruby Manny, CEO and President of HR Strategies Consulting. Again, very, very pleased to be hosting this session today. All of the panelists are our partners and our community, and we work with them on a daily basis to move this agenda. HR Strategies started its roots in HR consulting, and in our roots, we always felt that this topic should have been top of mind organizationally, not only in HR. So with that, we're going to launch into this session, and I would love for all of you to hear what our panelists have to say.
Thank you, Ruby. That's perfect. So let me take a second. I want to talk to you all, our dear participants, because we want to use your input as well. So throughout the webinar, we'll be using polls. We'll be asking questions around the EIB. So please, please, please participate. We will discuss the results live with our panelists and see where most of you are at today. Also, you can use our chat. As you can see, it's available on the side to discuss, comment. We'll be delighted to read you. We'll try to interact as much as we can. So please use them. Enough about the polls. Now let's talk about DEIB. What is DEIB? Well, it stands for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. First, diversity, it's much larger than ethnicity or gender. It relates to age, neurodiversity like ADHD or autism or anxiety. It's education. It's all of these things that makes us different. In today's market, having bias towards diversity leads to increasing the recruitment and retention issues that we already face. So let's go over a few stats. Our brains, they love stats. So first, I'm going to read these to you because they are very technical. There is a North American Glassdoor study that states that 2 out of 3 candidates seek companies that have diverse workforce. 2 out of 3. Imagine if you're not taking into consideration this. Already you have a challenge. 2 out of 3 are not interested if you are not taking this seriously. So if you're already doing something, promote it. If you're not doing anything, well, take notes during this webinar. It's going to be very useful. Then Deloitte mentioned that 74% of millennials believe the organization is more innovative when it has a culture of inclusion, and 47 are actively looking for a diversity and inclusion organization as a potential employer. So for our millennials, which are currently, around 30, 35, they all have a mortgage, they all have kids, they've grown up, they are the current big workforce. They want that, they expect it. So they see you as innovative, as interesting, if you do that. So if you want to be top of mind, if you want to do not only the right thing for society, but also doing the right thing to hire the right talents, well, it goes hand in hand. And when the people join your organization, well, they are proud to be part of an organization that thinks about everyone and their needs. Now, if you're curious about senior leadership, know that 69% of executives rate diversity and inclusion as an important issue on the verge of becoming critical. That's a jump of 10 points from last year. We've never seen such an increase in such a short period of time. That's amazing. And finally, a diverse team will lead to 19% higher revenue. When you're looking for a growth of 10, 15 points, when you have a group that is diverse, that challenge their ideas, that is comfortable enough to be themselves and to bring all of their ideas and their diversity to the table, you will improve your productivity and profitability. So it's normal to see executives that are not only seeing this as the right thing to do as an employer, they see this as a strong business decision. So now that you know that the market is asking for it, that senior managers are looking for it, well, it's time that we all do the same thing and that we enjoy and embrace diversity. So now, my dear panelists, let's start the discussion. I want to know, we'll start with Heidi, what is DEIB for you?
You said a number of things, and I'll call out one that resonates with me, and that is, it's doing the right thing. It's not because it's going to impact the bottom line, which it will, but that's not why we're coming at this and looking at how do we truly provide an inclusive, diverse, equitable place of belonging for employees. It resonates with me, and it's near and dear to my heart, simply because it's like, I want anyone who works with us and in our teams and on my team, I want them to know that they are valued, that they are wanted, that and I wouldn't call them differences, I would call our uniqueness. We are all so unique. And I want to know, am I truly curious to know who people are? And do I look at every individual like I look in here and say, each one of you to me is a 10. I have something to learn from each of you. I don't know what, but I'm going to come into a relationship with that mindset. So I get excited about that, Corinne. Maybe that is coming through a little bit, but I get excited about what is DEIB. It's at the heart, to me, it's at the heart of the soul of a company that really cares about people, that's going to put people first. So I think trust and respect are certainly woven throughout every aspect of this.
I love what you're saying, Heidi, because connecting with people, accepting that, you are not trying to treat them like the way you would like to be treated, but as they would like to be treated themselves. It's embracing all of that, and the richness that we get out of it is amazing. And Margo, I want to know, how do you see this? I would like to hear you bouncing back on what Heidi has said.
The way I see it is 4 uniquely distinct words and definitions behind them, yet relevant to what Heidi just said. So diversity is typically inherent in your organization because each and every one of us have our own internal diversity wheel. We represent so many different dimensions. So whatever your workforce looks like and represents, within that, there are uniquenesses amongst everyone: diversity of thought, diversity of background, your gender identities, your ethnicity, etc. Inclusion is a choice, it's a behavior that comes with the way you conduct yourselves within the culture of your organization. Equity is more around the access and the processes and procedures, and belonging is how authentic can you truly be. in the place where you are and accepted for those uniquenesses, and how do we embrace it? At a company, corporate level, we have to embrace those uniquenesses, build the bridges, not silos, be authentic and tell it like it is. These are our principles, that are our leadership principles, and they relate to diversity, equity, inclusion, making it happen together, unlocking potential. So while they're uniquely different areas, diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging, they're all interrelated. How well can I show up in the workplace? And for me, the importance of it is around making D&I our DNA. At SAP and at your company and everyone else's company. When you make it your DNA, it actually becomes foundational to all of your practices, procedures, policies that people are held accountable to, behaviors, tactics, your go-to-market strategy, and it becomes a fabric of what makes your company tick. And then it will result in the things that you mentioned around talent attraction, retention, financial results, etc. So I'm very excited. You know, I have my passion is my profession now, coming from finance previously into this people role, but it really is because it does transcend the workforce and really moves into the workplace and the ecosystem that we all exist in as corporate citizens.
Thank you, Margo. I love that you use the word ecosystem. For me, that's exactly that. When you're able to see that diversity is everywhere and is everything, it's also your suppliers, you know, it's also how you want to do business with much bigger than just yourself. And it becomes everyone. It becomes a matter that we all want to be part of and that you expect other people to be open to as well. So love, love, love the ecosystem aspect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I want to know, Greg, I'm going to turn to you. I want to know, how did DEIB become a part of your organization? How did you decide, you know, that you would be investing time and energy on the DEIB?
So it's a good question. I think it starts with the fact that DEIB is a core value for SAP in North America. And I see it as a moral imperative. I see it as a social imperative, but importantly, I also see it as a business imperative. Because here's the practicality of the situation. In 2043 in this country, there's going to be a white minority. You know, women today are 99% of the world's population. You know, my own son is autistic. Those numbers are skyrocketing. But all of those different groups and many more are not adequately represented today in the workforce, or in some cases, positions of leadership. And how do you develop products for, market to, sell to, service, and care for customers if they are not adequately represented in those processes? So acknowledging all of that, 2 years ago, we stood up a formal diversity council inside of our mid-market business in North America with a very simple goal at first. We wanted to attract, we wanted to hire, we wanted to promote, we wanted to retain diverse candidates and employees. And we started out looking at the hiring portion of this. So we said, hey, we want to expand a pool of diverse candidates, and we wanted to focus on something that for us was important, which was a need for early talent positions. We had a number of these positions open. So Valerie Smith, who is the chair of our committee, our council rather, and an entire team of individuals started to hold these DEIB recruiting events. And we went out and we purposefully sought out diverse candidates. And what happened was we sourced and hired 60% of the openings that we had from these events. Some ferociously bright, passionate, dedicated, and available people. And for us, that was a huge message that we're not doing enough, right? And this is a pool of talent that we need to do a better job of catering to. And so right now we're on target for those same results this year, and we expect even better results. So for us, it's having a big impact on the organization.
Wow, that's amazing. 60% were filled. And how did you connect, Greg, with these specific diverse populations? Do you know, was there a plan in place with affiliations, or you just opened it up with an inviting, you know, way to say you're all open? SAP is welcoming all types of background. What did you do to connect with them?
We just opened it up. We put a spotlight on it. We got out with my very talented communications person with Kelsey Pfeffer. We got it out on social media. Margo helped us to amplify it. And we just made the effort.
Wow.
And by just taking the first steps towards that, the results that we've seen are absolutely amazing. And I'll go back to what I said originally, right? It's a moral imperative. It's a social imperative, but it's also a business imperative. And I'm proud to say we're seeing better results in all three categories for having done this.
I love hearing that, because again, that's proof, guys. You know, if you invest in diversity, I'm talking to our participants right now, it will always pay back. You know, we're all humans. We all want to be fulfilled, and work is one of the first things that makes us feel accomplished. So let's open it up. Okay, thank you, Greg. Ruby, would you like to bounce on this beautiful comment from Greg?
Of course. Well, of course, Greg and I are aligned in much of what we think and how we lead in our organizations. For HR strategies, how did this become a part of our organization was actually at the time that the organization was founded. So as the founder of HR strategies, we had a choice. We had a choice as to where we would focus our energies and the type of services that we would provide. And what we chose to do is the area of equity. And so back then, many years ago, there was a lot of legislation that was introduced, which was great in terms of introducing this into the businesses outside of the communities. And a lot of this legislation was driven for equity in many levels, gender, pay, access. And we decided strategically that our organization would work on those programs. So our consulting practice was all around programs, taking first the legislative requirements as the wedge, if you would, in organizations, but then expanding it to a level where what we wanted to do was elevate and escalate these programs outside of the realm of HR and make it a part of the organizational business strategy. So to take all of these initiatives and to what Greg is saying is it's not just a program. It is an imperative through your organization that just makes sense and is the right thing to do. And where you invest, you will naturally see a return on your investment. We started off with legislative compliance. We created programs, and then we created training initiatives. And from there, what we did is created tools. So as our organization evolved in the area of HR technology, what we always have in our product development is a line of sight, is how can we impact DEIB in our tools, current state, development state, and future state in all of the strategies that we do. So many times we will be providing software implementations, but the strategic services around why that implementation is important is to, first of all, take a look at your end user, which is your customer. And those diverse customers need to be able to adopt to any changes that are happening in your organization. How do we put ourselves in their shoes? How do we reach out to them so they can actually make any business initiative smoother and welcome and embraced? Because at the end of the day, anything that an organization wants to do, everybody has to follow. Otherwise, it's not going to work to see the value. And with HR strategies, every day when we look at new initiatives, we have a line of sight and we make it our mission as to how can we take DEIB and have it infused in all of our campaigns, in all of our products and all of our services, and coach and guide in every way that we can be allowed to with our customers to showcase how this will help their organizations. This initiative today also has, brought to us not only what do we do internally in an organization, but how can we as a community of businesses help each other? So everyone in the panel works together, is a partner of one another, has initiatives, and we feel that we build and celebrate the initiatives that each one of our organizations are putting out there in the workplace.
Thank you very much, Ruby. And you said legislative compliance. And often that's the same thing that we see at SEP24. Our customers will come to us because there's somewhere in legislation that requires them to think about DEI. And then it becomes a sensitivity that happens around a little bit more here and there, and it becomes something that all people embrace. So if it takes legislation to start it, that's okay, as long as we get to it. But guys, don't wait for that. It's so amazing to embrace diversity, to put programs together. People, again, I will come back to this often, but people want to connect. Everybody wants to be able to express who they are and be able to bring their best selves to the table. So putting programs, starting from one leading to the other is okay. It's a long-term process to put DEIB programs together. It's not something that you will say, that's a 12-month program and we're going to be good to go in a year. No, no, no. That's something that will change and evolve with you, and that will always be happening. So just accept that it's going to be part of who you are as a corporation, and it will be.
If you make it process, not program, policy, that you'd hold to, that's where the secret sauce comes in. What Greg is doing, we all just say, hey, come join us and have a monthly get to know you, get to know SAP every month, a different topic or something. Like those types of things where it doesn't have to be a programmatic project. It's just, if you're hiring anyway, here's another way of doing it, right? It's a process, it's a procedure. There's a model with Deloitte around compliance driven versus leader owned versus everyone owning D&I. And that's where you see your evolution and your growth for it, that it's not just compliance, not just HR, it's not even just your senior executives, but everyone has a stake in it to make it stick.
Margo, that's exactly where I was going. I was going to say, if you're going to speak, but you have the chance to speak with Margo and you use this as a project, she will tell you DEIB is not a project. It's something that becomes part of who you are. So thank you. Now it's time for our first poll. So for all our participants, I'm going to launch it right now. Please feel free to vote, and we'll be discussing the results in a few minutes. While you are answering the poll, let's go to our next question. I'm going to ask Heidi. We miss you, Heidi, so it's going to be your turn. I want to know, how do you involve your workforce in all of this DEIB topic?
Yeah, I think, well, I'll just talk some brass tacks of experience. On a weekly basis, we have a virtual staff, and we are very, very diverse and remote. All of our, on just my L&D team, I have people in every time zone of the US, across Canada and the Philippines, India, the UK, and one in Nigeria. So we've got a lot going on for us there when it comes to time zones, just to get people together. But in that, each week we hold a spotlight that's tied to our core values, where everyone in the organization is invited and asked and requested to spotlight colleagues for not just a job well done, but we'll tie it to a value. What I love, and then we highlight that in the staff meeting of who's being called out for doing something great that contributed to a healthy work process, products, etc. What I love about that is it creates a level playing field for all employees to participate and to be highlighted, to be celebrated. So that's a very simple way that all employees are seeing, no, we don't just say this matters to us. We are practicing in a very tangible manner on a weekly basis. Because we also, again, have people all across the world, we always begin those weekly staff meetings with a song, a video song that somebody has contributed that they want shared. Last week, I saw a song, and the video that went along with it was showing me a certain wedding celebration in a region specific to Africa. And one of our employees was born and raised there. And so she was able to tell us afterwards. It was fascinating. It was wonderful to see. So again, that's another way to look at how can we celebrate the differences and be aware that the world is large and much, much bigger than our own experiences. along with that, another way that at hr.com where we involve our workspace, workplace, and everyone in it, is we actually have a variety of advisory boards that produce research in all of the functional areas of human resource. We have one that just came out on the future of diversity, equity, and inclusion for 2022. And those research, the study, as well as just a simple 2-page infographic to just like at a snapshot, see what is going on in this field. We will highlight that as well with all of our employees. Again, making sure that everyone's aware of what's going on, where are we headed, and what are some issues, what are some barriers to advancement in this area. So I think looking at how we can make this not just be, and I love what you said, Margo, it's not a project. Like, this is the fiber of who we aspire to be as an organization, to welcome all and to celebrate all. So those are some tangible ways, Corinne, that hopefully just bring a little spice to
Yes,
what does this look like?
absolutely. And to celebrate. So because we already have diversity, again, if we open our eyes and we don't say, oh, you know what, diversity is ethnicity or diversity is age. No, it's everything. You have diversity already. You just need to recognize it, embrace it, and enlarge it after. So that's amazing. Greg, what about you? Talk to me about SAP.
Okay. So I think first thing first was DEIB we didn't make it a mandate in our business. We made it an imperative, but not a mandate. It was actually the way we got started with our Mid-Market Diversity Council. It's a volunteer organization. So, I'm the executive sponsor over the council. I misspoke earlier, not the chair, that's Val Smith, but I'm the executive sponsor. And my senior leadership team advises on how it is that we do things, recruiting. We promote the importance of this because truly the speed of the leader, speed of the gang. So we wanted to show that it was important critically, but we wanted people to opt into this. And the response that we got back was overwhelming. People wanting to participate in this effort. And that filled me with a huge amount of joy and a huge amount of pride. And so it was a bottoms up type of thing. But we saw a lot of encouragement, right? People encouraging one another to get involved with the North America Diversity and Inclusion team that's led by Margo and to participate in this more broadly. And we have 4 ambassadors from our team that are taking what we believe to be some of our very best practices, and we're bringing those back to our colleagues in broader North America. And I know that Margo is then taking those and bringing those to a much broader audience globally, and so on and so forth. So good ideas are coming from everywhere. But this aspect of having people opt in to this was important because people are leading with passion versus pragmatism, and it's making all of the difference.
Absolutely.
And then just add the culture at SAP fosters that, right, Greg? I mean, we have leaders in different areas who work across those lines. So there's that passionate, overwhelming desire to participate. There are the regional councils, there's the LOB councils, which he has, we have global councils, you have D&I ambassadors, you have the employee network group leaders and the people who sponsor those. So that's something that if your culture encourages it, then people will opt in because they do feel like they have a choice and they take it on as a passion. When somebody wants to do something, they'll do it. Versus if you're telling them to do it or what to do or how to do, instead of inviting them to do. And that's why I feel like it's been very successful, particularly within the mid-market space in the way that they're handling it and other similar LOB councils too. And then it's great to have those folks on the broader, as he said, regional council and global impact, because of the fact that you can show it's coming not from the HR team telling you, but the business leaders who are seeing the success.
Precisely.
Thank you. So I'm going to share the results of our first poll with all of you guys. Remember the question was, what is the current status of DEIB in your organization? We have 25% for whom it's a new priority. 22%, it's an interest. Good for you. It's good to be curious about it. It's a good first step. 31%, it's a semi-organized structure. You know, they started little things here and there, but it's not very clean. And 22%, it's part of their DNA. So they have KPI, goals, training, serving people. So it's a good split, I would say. And I'm glad to see that 25% have made this a new priority. This is fantastic. I can tell you 2-3 years ago when I was starting to do the EIB conferences, it was mostly interest from all people attending. So now we have 25% in interest, 25% in new priority, and 50% are in an organized to semi-organized structure. My dear panelists, do you have something to say about these results? Are you surprised?
No.
No.
No?
I think it's exciting to look at it and say, well, really 46% between a new priority or an interest, that's a lot of room for growth. So that's exciting. And it's exciting that if you're sitting here, you're thinking, well, it's a new priority or it's an interest for our organization. The good news is you're here. You're here today
Yes.
to learn more, which is a first step. I mean, just learning and seeing tangible ways that we can implement DEIB, make it a part of our culture, look at some strategies to do that. I'm glad that everyone's here today.
Excellent, me too. Okay, so Heidi, while you're talking, let me ask you the next question. So I want to know, what has been your biggest challenge so far in transforming your organization?
Yeah, I would say our biggest challenge, which I'm thinking may be similar to many of you here on this call, is maintaining focus on the strategy, because there's always so much going on and always so many new business initiatives and work to be done and teams that are just going as fast and furiously as they can. So many just pieces of work. So when you live in, which I think we all do, a fast, sometimes chaotic culture of go, 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 celebrate something, go, 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 that it's can be tempting to get so distracted in the business of day-to-day work that our DEIB strategy can, I don't want to say sit idle, but it can lose focus. And so I think bringing that to the forefront as a lens, I forget who, I think maybe it was you, Ruby, but using this as a lens from which we view all of our initiatives, and to make sure that we've got the right people involved in conversations as well as decisions to represent different perspectives. So that I think would be, just being really honest, I think that would be one of our largest challenges.
It's a big one. Margo, I'm interested in hearing about you.
I would say one of the challenges that we face is just ensuring that people understand the evolution of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because we've had it in place for a number of years at SAP, and it was initially related to gender, generational, differently abled with our Autism at Work program, and culture and identity related to race and ethnicity, as well as sexual orientation. And it's still about those things, but those are all related to workforce diversity. It's evolved to include the workplace inclusion and the ecosystem touch with the customers and suppliers. So having people understand that, and the growth model that comes with that, has been one of the things that it's not been a problem, but it challenges us to be diverse in our approach and methodology. So providing toolkits to leverage. If we're going to say, let's hire diversity and we want a diverse slate, what kind of tools and processes can we give them to embrace, to leverage, to make sure that they're asking questions that are more qualitative than quantitative, that they're having a diverse hiring panel from our side and a slate coming in? And then what resources are we providing by way of partnerships for them to leverage and participate? And then once you have them, the retention strategy. So just not how do we show up for talent attraction, sourcing, and recruiting, but then what do we do to onboard, engage, and career advance, etc. So I think some of the challenges have just come with growing that understanding of how it does truly transcend your hiring process and becomes more ingrained, and providing the right tools. So we don't want to say that we're training you, but we're enabling you. Here's a strategy that you can use with your customers. Here's a strategy you can use related to supplier diversity. Here's a strategy you can use for holding inclusive team meetings. We have an inclusive mindset challenge and leader challenge, where it's a gamified diversity tool for learning and engagement and implementing these micro learning tools and tips into their daily operations. So just that evolution, helping people to understand that it is a journey and that we've come through one stage of it into the next phase of it, and that we're being responsive, not reactive in our steps, and that we need for people to come along with us in that journey and see where we're pivoting and see the results of the tools and resources. Is nothing better than letting success beget success, because if I try to change your mindset, then you could push back. You could say, don't touch my morals, don't this, don't that. But if I give you tools and you see how they work, then that changes your mindset, which drives the behaviors, which creates the business outcomes that we want to do. Anytime I say, oh, Greg is over there doing this, and that team, okay, what is he doing? What's he doing? Like, we're inherently competitive, right? And so then everybody wants to do it. Even though we've been asking perhaps for some of those things that take place previously, like seeing your fellow internal person or even your external customer, partner, or competitor doing something that works and seeing the success of that, and then being willing to go ahead and take the chance and go with that. So the mindset, as well as the tools and the next steps required for this journey, I think is something that we're all challenged with, but it's a good challenge because everyone seems to be awake, open, ready to embrace it. It's just we have to be very prescriptive in how we do it and create the culture for it to be embraced.
You brought so many good points. Okay, I have a question for you. So you talk about building toolkits, being able to activate diversity internally in a way that is accessible for people and that becomes concrete. And one of the things that we hear often within organizations, that people are afraid to say the wrong thing. They don't have the vocabulary, they don't know how to treat diversity in a way that is respectful. So they prefer to do nothing than to commit an error. So when you develop these toolkits, who do you partner with internally, externally? How do you make sure that you actually do something that you're comfortable with and that you know is going to be the right thing? Because at SAP, it's part of your DNA, as you've said. You have a bit past that. People are ready to talk about it, to have committees and to go forward. But when you're at the beginning, at the infancy of it, how do you surround yourself properly?
So sharing information has been helpful, and not everyone sees it and gets it right away, but building that understanding. We had a huge inclusive language project that was part of the toolkit that was put out into the industry papers and such around saying, lead schedule instead of, let's say, a master schedule, and an expert paper instead of a white paper, and things that maybe people weren't considering how it looks, and things that were actually considered microaggressions when it related to not just race and ethnicity or gender, but neurodiversity and our colleagues on the spectrum and things like that. So really just educating and sharing, working internally with great managers like Greg and other leaders, working with our TA teams to help educate them, to educate the people that they work with, our partner with our HR business partners, bringing in Deloitte to the whole 6 signature of traits of inclusive leader project. And it had this say this, not that, ask this, not that, to really tap into it. Even things like accessibility. A lot of times when we run our meetings, we try to turn on closed captions, because not only does it help those who may be hard of hearing and trying to read lips, but it also shows that in this busy world that we're multitasking. And so maybe you missed the point, but because it's coming across the screen, you're able to read it, or maybe an accent, or maybe the speed at which someone speaks. I'm often told that I talk too fast, but if it's coming across the screen, that's helpful. So how we embed it in just those daily pieces is what's been helpful to get the word out, so to speak, and the conversation. And then oftentimes a lot of the awards and such we receive, people ask, well, how did we get that? And we share, well, we did this survey or that survey, or it was related to this process or procedure that we have available to us. So educating through our newsletters, through our forums that we hold, town halls, when people have a team meeting, if they invite D&I to it, we speak about it, and thought leadership sessions internally and externally, and leveraging organizations like this platform here, right, to be able to see what else is going on and implement it that way.
Fantastic. That's a lot of advices already. Thank you, Margo. Anyone wants to add?
Well, I think one of the things that you have to also be aware of is when you are embracing this movement, and I call it a movement or a journey, is the sustainability of it. You don't want it to be something that you launch and it's the flavor of the day. You have to have a line of sight to how sustainable it is. How do you keep the momentum? So you need to think about all of the other steps, not, oh, we're going to do this, but how do we keep it ingrained in the organization, across the organization, and in different levels. So those strategies in terms of the planning around it and infusing this thought leadership wherever you can, whether it's your own conferences, whether it's in the area of production or sales or marketing, how can we infuse this thought leadership in everything that we do so that it's sustainable, I think is important.
That's a very good point.
Mhm.
Thank you, Ruby. So now it's time for our second poll. I'm gonna launching one that is asking you, what is your biggest DEIB challenge right now? So, for our 50% panelists that are not panelists, but participants that have started, you'll have good answers there to pick from. And same thing for those who have an interest or that are starting as a new priority, just retreat and try to foresee what will be your biggest challenge. I'm launching it right now. And while again, we are capturing the results, we're going to go to our next question. And Greg, I'm going to go to you first. I want to know, how have you seen SAP changing into that process? What has been the most rewarding so far? And you are on mute, my friend.
Thank you. So I'll just speak to my own business and what it is that we've seen evolve. I think what I'm most excited about is how we're expanding our activities in DEIB. So I mentioned earlier, we were doing these recruiting events, an effort to be able to attract diverse employees. Now we're expanding well beyond these recruiting events. We are working with our partner community, for example, of which we have 23,000. HR Strategies, who's on with us today, is a terrific one, around DEIB and promoting Black and women-owned businesses. So that's just another example. Interestingly, we have a human capital management solution that we provide to our customers. Well, we're using that as a platform, an opportunity to be able to share our best practices and insights that we're doing inside of SAP with our customers. And sometimes those are big things. Sometimes those are small things. Things like we are reviewing the language in all of our hiring profiles to try to remove bias from them. We're making sure that we have diverse employees involved, not only in the recruitment, but in the interview and the onboarding process. Things like that, practical things that we're seeing customers take advantage of. And in some cases, enabling with technology. I think that Margo made several references to the fact that within SAP, there's an inherent spirit of community. So what we're doing is we're getting out and we are taking the best practices to other organizations within our 100,000 person company. And what we've seen is they're starting to stand up councils like the one that we have in Midmarket in other regions and in other lines of business. So for us, the thing that's most exciting is we saw something that started out as being somewhat nascent in our business, volunteer opt-in, terrific momentum. And now, momentum's a funny thing, right? Now this has caught fire inside of our organization and it's building on itself.
That's very inspiring. Now, Ruby, do you want to add? Is there something that happened at HR Strategies that would be, something that would inspire us all as well?
Well, I think that, how our organization has changed and how it's been rewarding is that the seeds of our organization were very small. many years ago, and to see it flourish today in all aspects of our business, not only our consulting side of the business, but also our technology line of the business, where our customers and our partners are looking to us to say, you know what, this really does make sense. How can you help us in both camps? In addition to that, our own organization is very diverse. It's led by a woman, and a visible minority. And our own makeup of our organization is quite reflective of that. And we've seen the fruits of that in our conversations and in our strategies. And they also come together in that it's thought around everything that we do in our strategic planning sessions. So being able to see everyone recognize that and come to the table in our conversations, whether they're business or they're social, in terms of our organization is really, really great to see. So we have also taken it to another level where we have a number of events in our organization. As you know, we're all remote, as many organizations are. We have taken our company events to, and they've morphed into different types of venues. They've gone from games, they've gone to learning arenas, and they've gone to celebrating cultures and different backgrounds of everyone that is in our organization. And that's really caught on, where we've got people putting up their hands and saying, I want to do this, I want to do that. And that can be very, very motivating and encouraging to the entire organization, almost a little bit contagious, right? And then when we tell these stories to our customers and our partners, we learn from one another. They will adopt from us and we will adopt from them. And that's very, very important.
That's creating this chain of reaction that we want to see everywhere on the market. That's for sure. Anyone wants to add?
One thing I'd love to add is about the excitement that I find is I feel like I get to offer D&I as a service, internally and externally. So I've been able to, I've met with some of our pre-sales teams about enabling them to speak to their customers. I've actually been a part of closing one of the deals because around the supplier diversity issue. I love that our employee network groups are not just food, fun, and festivities, but that they're really making change in our total rewards and our business practices. They're solving business challenges. I'm actually have another meeting today with the Emerging Talent Advisory Board. And so that's early talent that's working with senior talent to tackle some of the next innovations and such. And with that, it embraces diversity, equity, inclusion, even though it's not a diversity, equity, inclusion initiative. So I'm just excited to see how it truly is organically being integrated into the operational aspects of our business, and that more employee network groups are standing up. We just launched a caregivers at SAP that was in the works pre-pandemic, but the need for it was escalated during the pandemic because many people shifted where they live. They live with their parents, or their parents with them. They're in the sandwich generation. They're taking care of people in a lot of different ways, and caregivers need self-care. And they need resources for those to whom they're providing care. So just simple things like that are part of your company, but it's part of the D&I strategy, Interfaith Alliance, or SAP Interfaith Alliance, and what that looks like in the workplace. That excites me because I'm seeing this evolution that's organically happening across US and Canada in particular, but even globally, that relates to many different aspects of our business that I really just didn't anticipate getting engaged with. And in all honesty, I didn't anticipate myself being in HR. I have a finance background. I'd already been here for 10 years doing finance and sales support. And it just speaks to the diversity of SAP that I can be here 15 years, 5 different roles because of the way we leverage transferable skills and really diversify our methodologies, diversify our results, diversify our people experiences, ensure moments that matter. And that in and of itself is a retention piece for me, because I get to work with CSR, I get to work for every other groups. It's exciting. So,
well, it is, and congrats on the progress that you had throughout SAP. It's amazing. That's how we need to think as well. And I love when you talked about the fact that, it's everywhere. It's not only North America. We're doing currently for one of our customers, Upset 24, we're doing a cultural analysis globally, where we review the employee experience expectations in different countries. And what will make everyone reacts to be attracted to a specific employer. And I go back to, do not treat people like you want to be treated, but how they want to be treated. You have to understand, be interested, ask questions, and say, oh, I never expected that, but I'm so glad I understand it because I'm going to put it in the business plan, which becomes attractive, which becomes a differentiator, which becomes who you are. You really embrace these differences and you learn as you go at the same time. So now to go to our poll, we have the results. I'm going to share them right now with you. One of the first things that we see is that one of the biggest challenges is to get started. Getting started is complicated. You don't know where to start. Okay, good. One of the tips we give to our customers is to start with a diversity audit. You know, look at your current workforce, look at your recruitment process, take the time to build your inclusive persona, take time to build your inclusive employee experience. You know, take a step back and look at who you are. Do this audit. It's super useful to give you your day zero standpoint, and you're going to be growing from it. So that's great. Then in the results, we also see the two biggest challenges are training and attracting diversity. So attracting diversity will come from all of these initiatives you'll put together and promoting them and showing how open you are. But the training aspect is super important. And I want to go to Heidi because, you know, it's one of their biggest challenge. It's with attracting diversity, that's at the top. So will you have advice for them if they don't know how to start with the training aspect?
Well, there's plenty of good training out there, and you can come to HR.com. We've got a couple of courses that would really help, honestly, and there are many others, not just us. I just know our products. So you don't have to create the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
There are others out there. So you can look at that. I think the other piece is when you say we've got a, where do we begin? I would say it begins with each of us. So it begins with you. Are you, as a leader in your organization, are you demonstrating respect for all people? Are you showing respect? Are you building trust and creating a truly a safe environment where people can share what they want to share, where they can say what they need to say? Are you, we said it earlier, are you truly curious? Are you educating one another? Yesterday on our team meeting, I always begin all of our meetings, our company begins all of our meetings with what's something great that has taken place. Could be professional,
Yes.
personal. We always begin with that. And we talked about some professional things, and then a gal on our team from India said, would it be okay if I showed a few pictures from my cousin's wedding this last weekend? And she had to take a couple of days off of work, which to me, as an American, I'm thinking, well, okay, that's fine, but I don't really understand. And then when I saw the pictures, I was like, well, now I understand. This is like a week-long event, and it was magnificent. And our team was just oohing and ahhing over every aspect of the whole festivities and all of the culture and customs related to this event. And it was just a fun way to even watch the chat. And wow, that is so cool. That's so beautiful. And it was just,
yes.
It was special.
That's a training in itself. You don't have to be following a training. Just listening to people around you will become training.
Yes, and we all shared, isn't it great that this person chose to do this? We thanked her for being willing to just share that part of her life with us. And I was able to say, what's fascinating is that for this gal, this was just normal for her. Well, they're having a wedding. In her mind, she knows it takes a week, and she knows that she had a 12-pound dress because it was so full of sequins. 12 pounds, people, that's a lot of dress. Anyway, but to her, that's normal. And I said, well, my frame of reference of a wedding certainly isn't that. I didn't even know that was something. So it was helpful for all of us to say, what's normal for us, be willing to share that with the team so we can better understand where we're coming from and what's important to us, or even just simply to educate us that most of the world doesn't live like we live and doesn't have our experiences. The other thing I think is if we're going to try to empower managers to lead with a lens of DEIB, we have to have that as a call to action. That is an expectation in our culture, that you are attuned to this. we also then need to provide learning experiences for them, to round them out, to help them lead more effectively, to give them concrete strategies to employ. So I think it's important for us not just to say this is important, but to demonstrate respect and to demonstrate opportunities for people to learn with. The other and the final piece I'll say, Kareem, is that think through who, and even if you're a small organization, if you're a small team, and you could be sitting here saying, I'm part of a big organization, but my organization isn't here, but I care. Well, how can you, from you down, can you make a difference? I would say invite and look for an advocate. I happen to have someone on my team, and she came to me in a one-on-one meeting, and she said, you know, and I always ask, how would you like to grow? Where do you want to get to? How can I help you get there? And she said, well, I would love to serve as our DEI advocate for our for the whole company. And I was like, you go, girl, let's do this. So yesterday was her first go, and she facilitated our advisory board on our future of diversity, equity, and inclusion research board. So how exciting is that it came from her wanting to do this and to step into this and be given an opportunity to grow and to lead in that fashion. So look at your team. Who do you have that wants to step forward and stretch their wings and add to their repertoire and knowledge and expertise?
As Greg was saying, I think it was Greg, that, you know, it's not a mandate per se, you opt in. And when you want to join, automatically it becomes a passion and you want to express it. So thank you for that advice.
Sure.
My favorite stat is to see that senior management buy-in is the least biggest concern, which means that people understand that their higher management will be all in. So that for me is the highlight of this poll. I love it. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Now is time for one of our final questions, while I'm going to be running our final poll at the same time. So the final poll will be, let me tell you right now, what would you like to know more about regarding DEIB? Okay, we want to know, what are you curious about? Should we talk about more things in the future? And our panelists will be answering all of you. I want to know about all of you. What would be the advice you would like to give to our participants today that have DEIB as part of their business plan? So you have an amazing expertise, all of you, or experience, you know, in making sure that DEIB becomes part of your business. One thing that you want our participants to remember or to activate as soon as this call is done. I'm going to start with Greg because he looks very ready.
Boy, weren't you wrong? No, I would say that here would be Karine. For me, you know, action begets action. So you got to walk the talk. And if you haven't taken like the first steps, right, pick something that you want to do and then build on it.
Amazing. Simple, easy, to the point. Margo, your turn.
Be very prescriptive in what you want to do, tie it to your organizational goals, and show the what's in it for me in terms of for your organization. So that benefit, it's a win-win, it's not a zero-sum game. Here's what we're doing, and this is a process thing, not a personal challenge. This is a business imperative. You know, those are the things that will make it actionable when you take the steps that are specific to your company. I don't want to give you what we do, but what works for your company that falls into the realm of your organizational structure and where you need to go. You might not need to hire more women, but you may need to hire somebody else. You might not have flight risk amongst it, you know, your early talent, but you might with your experienced talent. So identify it. That's the first thing. Identify the gaps to be remedied, and then begin your plan tied to your organizational goals to actually take action.
Oh, you're muted, Karine.
Fantastic. Thank you, Margo. Heidi.
Yeah, I would say ask your people. Ask them, what ideas do you have for our organization to mature in this area? And I think that all of us will be amazed at the great ideas that come forth that I know I never would have thought of on my own. And even by the virtue of asking that and inviting that, that's demonstrating, hey, level playing field. And we want to hear all the perspectives from all of the different angles. So I think that to me it doesn't cost you anything. It's easy and it's pretty simple. So that would be a very tangible, quick step, Corinne.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Ruby, what would be your advice?
Well, in addition to all of those, what I would suggest to an organization is baby steps. Don't
Yes.
try and create something really big, and that's a huge wave of transformation. In addition to the strategies already presented, is that chunk it down, right? Start small and let it grow on its own. It will take wings if you do it correctly.
Beautiful. Thank you for your advice. It's inspiring, it's concrete, it makes sense. I hope that all of our participants, you will activate one thing, just one. Already it will make a change in people's lives, in your organization, in how people see you, and you will be a positive agent of change yourself. So I was extremely happy to be your facilitator today. I was happy to hear your thoughts. You are brilliant. I love being surrounded by people like that. So I'm going to turn the mic to Ruby for the closing remark. And I thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Corinne. And thank you to our panelists. This was incredible. It was just a small idea that our team had, and it just grew. Like I said, take a small idea, baby steps, and it will evolve. And it's a topic that is so close to everyone's hearts, as you can see on the panel. I hope that the participants have learned and enjoyed the session, and I want to thank them very much for participating and for you for presenting. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.